So we're recording now. I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 6:33. First order of business, as always, is to review and make any changes to the agenda. Are there any changes to be made to the agenda this evening? All right, hearing no changes to be made to the agenda, we'll move on to just the first quick item of business before the presentation. This is the minutes of December 21st. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of December 21st as written?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 21st as written.
Great, thanks, Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great, thanks, Leanne. Any other discussion on the minutes? Hearing no other discussion, we'll vote. All those in favor of approving the minutes of December 21st as written, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Great. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. So the first item on our agenda tonight is a presentation from Du Bois King. I got that right that time?
Yes.
So for this, I'm going to turn it over to Brian and Linda, and let me know about screen sharing and who I should direct that to if we're going to do that.
I guess I will. I don't know how this works. I've never presented before on Zoom. If you need, I guess I have the presentation available. If I can't do it, Linda and I were talking, and she has the availability as well.
Okay. Whatever you prefer. I think what I have to do is just make one of you the host, and then you can share your screen.
Why don't you try making Brian the host first and see if he can do it, and if not, then I'll be the backup.
Great. So I've now made you the host, Brian, and then what you can do to share your screen is that green button right down in the middle.
Okay. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
The one thing I will just quickly before you get going, Brian, is just to point out that while you're doing this, you might see a box pop up on your screen that indicates that someone is in the waiting room for the meeting. If you do see that, just let me know and we can take care of that.
Okay.
Thanks.
Well, I guess first I want to say thank you for having me here tonight. I'm here to present alternatives for the town's consideration. The purpose of this meeting, or the agenda of this meeting, I would like to provide an overview of the project background, what's got the town here thus far. Next would be, I'd like to discuss the project development process through the VTrans Municipal Assistance Bureau, or MAB for short. Another thing I'd like to just touch on is the purpose and need statement. That's part of the project development process, and the local concerns meeting. The meat and potatoes of this presentation is going to be the preferred the presentation of alternatives. And then I'll follow up with schedule, my perceived schedule, and then follow up that with questions or concerns. The real purpose of this meeting will be for me to present alternatives for the town's consideration, and ultimately, hopefully, make a decision to move forward. Project overview. Anybody who's not familiar with the project, the red circle is the approximate project location, located on Longley Bridge Road, approximately 1,500 to 2,000 feet west of the intersection with Vermont Route 118. Heading west along Longley Bridge Road, you're going to hit Enosburg. Heading east along Longley Bridge Road, you're going to hit, again, Vermont Route 118. Heading south, excuse me, you're going to go to Montgomery, and then heading north on Vermont Route 118, heading to East Berkshire. Project background, what got the town here thus far. Back in 2018, the town applied for a transportation alternative program grant, or TAP, but was unsuccessful. reading through the backup documentation, it looks like the committee denied the request because your application more was focused on road preservation and not water quality improvements. So after that, the town worked with the Northwest Regional Planning Commission and the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources to refine proposed improvements, which included these stormwater mitigation strategies. That documentation of coordination was submitted with the 2019 Environmental Mitigation Grant and was approved, which started this project development process. This next slide is the VTrans MAB process flowchart. We are currently on the project alternative investigation that's circled in red. Can everyone see my mouse?
Yes.
Okay, yep, we're right here right now. And then again, as I mentioned a couple of slides ago, if the town can select a preferred alternative, I guess that would get the ball rolling to conceptual design, and a major hurdle would then be NEPA. Following that would be preliminary plans, or they call it 60% plan development. Another major hurdle would be right of way, final PS&E or 85% plan development. From there, contract plans. Contract plans would be putting out to bid from there. After that, the town will need to procure construction inspection services to observe the work. And finally, from there would be construction. Okay, one of the things that got us here thus far and is part of the project development process is the local concerns meeting. That was held on October 19th last year by Linda. She gave an overview of the project, told everyone about the project, specifically, stabilizing the stream bank, buffer plantings, bioengineering, and then it looks like the only concerns raised during the meeting included what happens if a storm event would take out the roadway prior to these improvements, and contingencies for that. I'm unaware of any other concerns that were raised during that meeting. So if anyone has any concerns that were back then or currently, I guess let Linda or myself know. The next step immediately following the local concerns meeting is the purpose and needs statement. This is what I presented or gave to VTrans for documentation purposes for the NEPA documentation. To summarize, the purpose of this project is to stabilize the stream bank on the Trout River adjacent to the Long Bridge Road. And to summarize the need, it would be to halt migration of soil deposition, reduce lost property, improve water quality and aquatic habitat, and if a storm event, mitigate the storm event taking out the roadway, and ultimately preserve the roadway. I'd like to point out that a lot of this language was in the 2019 grant application. So whoever wrote that, thank you. So I guess to the alternatives. If you, as shown in the VTrans MAB guidebook, we are to provide a minimum of 3 alternatives, and they state that we should always consider a no build as one of the alternatives. So that is what we've done. So that's just showing a cross section of the stream bank looking upstream. Some advantages to no build would be zero construction costs, natural stream migration and adjustment, no known utility impacts to utilities, no impacts to pre-contact archaeological areas, and no right-of-way impacts. Some disadvantages would include, not stabilizing the stream bank. It does not protect Longley Bridge Road. It does not provide a floodplain bench per the grant application, and we don't believe it meets the grant application. Next slide is just a plan view of our survey that was conducted. You can see Longley Bridge Road at the bottom of the screen. We've stationed it for reference. For another reference point, the farmhouse is located at station 24, so approximately 400 feet north of this point here. And this point right here, if you can see all those lines clustered together, that's the stream bank. Those are contours showing each 2-foot elevation. That's the closest point to the roadway currently. Trout River flowing right to left downstream. One of the things that D&K and subconsultants have done thus far has looked at cultural and natural resources. Our wetland scientist went out and delineated some wetlands. She did find wetlands, one wetland, and there is a cross pipe located right here. And then there's a ditch in this location flowing to Trout River. That is a Class 2 wetland. And because it is a Class 2 wetland, it requires a buffer, a 50-foot buffer. You're really not supposed to be working or impacting within that buffer. I can delve into that with alternative 2 and 3. Class 3 wetlands, they do not require buffers. Class 1s and 2s, they do. Additionally, D&K's subconsultant Harkin they are an archaeological and historical architecture resource assessor, and they have come out here and determined that this entire area has pre-contact or pre-European sensitivity to it. As this is a no build, there are no impacts to that. Into alternative 2 and 3, I can touch more on that. So this is alternative 2 for us. What you're seeing here is, again, the existing ground, some stone fill. I'll go into detail about that, and then some bioengineering practices. It would be fascines and live staking. Some of the engineering that went into determining this typical section was a hydraulic and hydrology analysis. Hydrology, we're looking at how fast the soils can infiltrate water into ground, and then with hydraulics, we're looking at ground cover, topography, rainfall data, things of that nature. And ultimately, with that analysis, we are trying to get two outputs, two main outputs. One is velocity of river at a certain storm event, and at a certain storm event, what would be the grade. So based on a Q2 storm event, that'd be a 2-year storm event. You've probably heard of the 100-year storm event, a 50-year storm event. This is more like an ordinary storm event, a Q2. That is determined to be about 439 feet in elevation on our datum. We are proposing to have the stone fill come up to and just past that elevation in grade. And then in terms of the stone fill itself, we're choosing to choose a 3-foot deep section of type 3 stone. And that's based on the velocity that we are seeing in our model. And the model has been compared against federal agency models and has determined to be quite comparable. Type 3 in perspective, the max size is nominal size is about 4 foot in diameter. That's per VTrans standard specifications. They do get slightly bigger than that. Another thing you're seeing here is down at the bottom of the river, we are proposing to put in a keyed section of stone that prevents stone from sliding. And additionally, it prevents scour of the river, or the river undermining the stone. One thing to note is we have yet to do a scour analysis. One of the things we need to have determined yet is proposed contours. So once conceptual plans are developed or preliminary plans, we will have proposed contours. So from there, we will determine anticipated scour depth. This may get lowered slightly to 4, maybe more than that feet, again, depending on what we're seeing in our calculations. The other thing that we've done thus far is conduct borings. We wanted to see what's underneath the ground. We want to determine, if there's any nasty surprises that are awaiting us that you don't find out until construction, and quantities overrun or change orders, that sort of thing. What we found is that predominantly a lot of this material, if you haven't been to the site, is fine sand. So that's not worrisome. However, beneath that sand is a clay at about 25 feet in depth. The clay material, if you put additional weight on it, it can compress and consolidate. We've looked at it and do not believe that's going to be an issue with this proposed improvement. Stone has a similar unit weight as compared to sand, and additionally, we are taking away some material from the existing grade to the proposed grade, so it could be a net wash, so to speak, in weight for this proposed improvement. And then I guess the final thing that I'll mention is this bioengineering practice. It's fascines and live stakes. Live stakes are cut willow. They can be as simple as cut willow branches, but that we can dive into more details at a later time during the project design and development. We believe this is the appropriate measure to use for this bioengineering practice because approximately 10 years ago, NRCS performed a similar project that will abut this project using, again, fascines and live stakes, and that has held up well. The only other bioengineering practice that we had considered was using log jams or like log cells. However, that practice is just not, I guess, practical or feasible at this site. You like to see a little different typical section for that. So that's why we landed on live stakes and fascines. Okay, plan view for alternative 2. There's a couple different things shown on here. The lines with triangles will be cut limits. So this right here would be a cut limit here, and this right here would be a cut limit. They're not exactly defined yet. We want to get a preferred alternative. Then we will very well define it in the cross section or model. But generally speaking, that's about where they will be located. You'll notice, sorry, just to the outside of the cut limit, we are showing a 10-foot strip of right-of-way. That's what we are proposing for right-of-way impacts for the contractor's use. And then the other two main things to point out in this plan view are that the upstream and downstream tie-in points, as shown in the NRCS as-built plans, the end of the as-built plans end at approximately here, and that's where we are proposing to tie into this project. And it just so happens that that is approximately just more than 50 feet away from the wetlands. So we don't believe with this alternative a buffer or a permit or wetland impacts will be or is impacted with the wetlands. And then on the upstream side, this is approximately where existing trees and vegetation is located. Previous discussions with project team members, and those being, the NPM, D&K, A&R had all agreed that that's probably the best tie-in point because it just doesn't make sense to take down large vegetation to put back in stone and unestablished live stakes. So one of the things we're currently showing is this right-of-way line work right here. The contractor could access from Longley Bridge Road and then enter at one point and work upstream, downstream, however they so choose. There is one issue with that I wanted to point out, is that to the east is the covered bridge. And the covered bridge, I don't know what the legal load limit is, but it's not 20, it's less, it's probably 16,000, 12,000 in that range. And additionally, there's a vertical clearance height restriction. And then to the west of Enosburg, or to the west would be to Enosburg, and that is through town bridges and roads, and those might have load restrictions on them. So basically, a loaded up excavator or a loaded up dump truck can be tens of thousands of pounds, and that might not be permittable or advisable to use the Enosburg road network to access it. So one thing that the team has already discussed was potentially accessing the project site from the north for a second property owner. We're currently not showing that, but that's something we will consider in the future for either build alternative. Again, touching on, I guess, the archaeological resources. I mentioned previously that we have, or Hartkin has conducted a site visit, performed an assessment, looked at records, and they have determined that this stretch of the river has pre-contact sensitivity. So we are impacting it. Basically, they're saying that the entire area here has pre-contact sensitivity. They will be recommending a phase 1B archaeological assessment. That's a little more involved than I think the first was a 1A. That will, of course, need to be approved by SHPO the State Historic Preservation Office, and they would need to review and confirm that they agree with that assessment. And that would need to happen in order for this project to go forward would be to include that additional work. Some advantages that I've yet to mention for alternative 2 was that it does provide stream bank stabilization. It does protect Longley Bridge Road. It does provide stormwater quality improvements. It provides floodplain bench stabilization, and it does meet the grant requirements. The disadvantages to this would include that it requires the most right-of-way. I'll show you alternative 3 in comparison. That just basically looking down bird's eye, the footprint of it is greater than the third alternative that we are presenting tonight. The entire project area is highly sensitive to pre-contact archaeologically, so it has the most potential impacts. Again, it's just due to the footprint of this alternative. The final thing that may be a disadvantage is there is a utility pole right in here somewhere. It's hard for me to pick out, probably right there at around 18 plus 10 left. It may be impacted, it may not, depending on grading. So there is that potential impact as well for this alternative. Okay, this is the third alternative we've selected. The main difference between alternative 2 and alternative 3 is that the stone fill previously was at the Q2 storm event, which was approximately elevation 439. So this one provides stone fill protection to a higher level, to a Q100 at about approximately 443 feet in grade. This alternative provides much of the same advantages as alternative 2, with the enhancement that it provides to a higher stormwater event. Disadvantages are similar in nature to Q2 as well. However, this does not provide a floodplain bench. It doesn't, and we don't believe this meets the grant requirements. So everything else is generally the same for this alternative as compared to alternative 2. This is a plan view showing alternative 3, and just as you can see, the only main difference really is the cut limits. As shown in alternative 2, the cut limits were approaching the roadway further. And again, similarly, we're tying in at approximately the same location, both upstream and downstream. We don't believe there will be wetland impacts or buffer impacts because this is pre-contact European archaeology. There will be potential impacts to that as well, just slightly less because there will be a slightly reduced footprint as compared to alternative 2. So next I wanted to provide an alternatives comparison. I believe alternatives 2 and 3 both meet the purpose and need statement, which is essential for the project development process. For resource impacts, I should have been more clear and said those were for cultural resource impacts. Obviously, a no build would have none, and alternative 2 has the most potential for impacts just because it has the biggest footprint. For utility impacts, again, 1 and 3 have no impacts. It's potential for 2 to have an impact. That being said, I believe there's, as the cut limit, as shown in alternative 2, was near the utility pole, there's potentially a way to regrade the slope to mitigate impacts. Natural stream migration, the only option that would do that would be for alternative 1. For right-of-way impacts, obviously none for alternative 1. Alternative 2 being the most, and again, that's just due to the footprint that it offers as compared to alternative 3. I believe based on the grant alternatives that only one of all these alternatives meets that, and that'd be alternative 2. I guess 2 other things would be permits. Obviously no build, no permits. For both alternative 2 and 3, I believe two permits are required in order to necessitate construction, and those would be the stream alteration permit and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit. I believe the threshold for the stream alteration permit is any or 10 yards of excavation or fill in the river. This would certainly, either alternative 2 or alternative 3 would apply. And then I believe the threshold for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permit is just any type of volume or area impact below the ordinary high water. And again, this project would apply. I guess the final thing to touch on is the cost opinion. Obviously, alternative 1, no build, $0. What's interesting is alternative 2 and alternative 3 are very similar in cost, only off by $10,000. You know, alternative 2, $290,000, alternative 3, $300,000. The reason for that is that alternative 3, although it has more stone, it's almost offset by the cost associated with the live stakes and fascines. And that's what we confirmed, and that's why they're so close in comparison. Okay, schedule. If the town chooses to select a preferred alternative very soon, I believe it's possible for D&K to submit conceptual plans in short order, potentially by the end of January or so. What typically follows is a V-Trans review process that is 4 weeks. That's pretty much standard. Following that would be NEPA documentation. You need a plan set with all the resources identified. That is a big time suck. It's typically 6 months, or not typically 6 months. That's what we've been seeing currently. We work on multiple different projects, and just the ones we're dealing with right now, we're seeing ones at 4 or 5 months that still have not been approved yet. Following that is preliminary plans. And then again, another V-Trans review. Again, 4 weeks standard. One thing to note with this schedule is the preliminary plans and the V-Trans review can run concurrently with NEPA, the NEPA review. The one thing that cannot happen or occur is right-of-way negotiations and acquisitions. Even like one of the tasks that D&K is assigned to come up with draft right-of-way plans. One of the things we could even do during the NEPA to hurry up the schedule would be to do the draft right-of-way plans during the NEPA review process. But again, the right-of-way coordinate or acquisitions and negotiations cannot occur until after NEPA has concluded. Following that would be, again, final design with a standard 4-week review process by VTrans. And then down at the bottom, we are currently anticipating construction next year in spring, summer. One of the biggest time sucks, or just takes the most amount of time, is NEPA. And the other big thing on these type of projects is the right-of-way process. We're currently showing 3 months. It could be 1 month. It could be 6 months. I'm currently working for a municipality and it's taken years. We're still working on it. So it's just, I guess what I'm saying is these schedules are just highly variable. And if I believe I've heard the town has previously wanted to construct in 2021. If that is true, I guess we need to have discussions about what can be done to potentially make that happen. So that is what I have for my alternatives presentation. I guess next steps, I guess I've only written down one, but the town can do, I think, maybe as many as 3 things. One is do nothing. Secondly, the town can, I guess, ask D&K to refine concepts or go back to the drawing board with a different alternative. And then I guess thirdly, as pointed out in this bullet point, the town can make a decision on the preferred alternative to move forward with the project. As I see it, there's only one alternative, and that would be alternative 2 to meet the grant requirements. So with that, I guess, does anyone have any questions or comments?
Would a riprap do the job itself rather than a different size aggregate?
By riprap I guess is another terminology for stone fill. Do you mean alternative 3 showing riprap all the way for the entire embankment?
And rather than trees, just a regular green belt? Trees can wash out in the flood pretty easy.
Well, beyond providing live stakes and fascines, it would be there would be best management practices performed on that embankment on alternative 2 above it. Potentially temporary or permanent erosion matting, seeding, haying, fertilizing, basically establishing grass above and beyond the live stakes and fascines.
Okay, thank you.
Brian?
Yes.
Brian, I just want to make sure I understand why alternative 3 doesn't meet the requirements.
I believe that may have been what was put in during the 2018 grant application that was denied, and that it does not provide, I guess, a floodplain bench. As shown in that alternative above the stone, we were laying back the slope at a shallower pitch.
Understood.
And then second, I guess the other thing would be it would provide, stormwater quality improvements, whereas it's perceived that the stone does not.
Thank you.
Right, at this point, unless anybody wants to look at a slide that Brian had up, at this point we might exit the presentation and go back to the main screen if we're going to chat. It's just a little bit easier to see folks. But again, unless anybody has a specific question on a slide, I don't want to. Mark or Michael, any takeaways or feedbacks?
No, this is basically what I was expecting. I'm just a little concerned on the time frame because when we were on site earlier this summer, at least I felt we were led to believe that construction could start this summer coming. Now we're pushing it a whole nother year, and I don't believe we'll have the road another year.
I guess one thing I could say to that is I'm showing, I think in my schedule, I was showing 1 month's thereabouts for plan production. That could obviously be cut down to maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Things that go into plan production are addressing review comments, providing more details, back checking things. But ultimately, even if I cut everything of my tasks in half, the one big time suck, as I mentioned in that schedule, is getting NEPA to get approved, and then right away. If someone knows somebody at FHWA, I guess make a call, because those are the two things that are just going to, it would extend this project. The other thing that I didn't mention is utilities, but it doesn't look like that is going to be a big issue. That's another thing that can really, really extend a project.
And just to clarify, FHWA, they're the ones that do the NEPA review, or is the NEPA review handled by a different governmental entity?
So D&K will develop the document. They call it a categorical exclusion for this type of project. We submit it to VTrans. I believe VTrans reviews it and then sends it off to FHWA, where I think it just sits for a long time.
FWSJ, federal what?
So we
Federal
have,
Highway.
this is Mark, so we have these plans, another year, we could lose another 10, 15 feet on that bank. So that's even closer to the road. So some of those plans were showing, you're almost on the road already with your right of way. What's that impact gonna be?
So one of the things we've discussed with the river management engineer, and they are generally on board, I think Linda can confirm this, is we won't be putting back stone and that live staking where the existing bankment is. We'll be putting it back where it was, so to speak. So we'll be, I guess, filling in the river a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Generally, on all my projects, they do not, they say, no, you're putting your stone here at the edge of the river, but the edge of the river used to be over here. So that's, I think, where they're coming from.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
so not right. Chris Burnell said they would allow that for this site.
Okay. So even if you lose more, you're still going to be starting basically the same spot. Even if you lose more, you'll just have to add fill in. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks. So it sounds to me like alternative 2 is the one we really need to move forward with, so we can keep the ball rolling, because that is approved by the grant. So that's what it sounds like to me, is the one we need to go with.
Linda, do you have anything to add to this?
Yeah, I was just gonna
thoughts.
chime in and say that, yeah, I agree that, I've had several conversations with Brian, and I also wanted to share with the group that I did also forward this alternatives presentation to Stacy Pomeroy, who's the river management scientist that has been working with us on the design of this. And she did a site visit with us back in whenever it was, spring or summer, when we first kicked off the project with Du Bois and King. And she basically, had the same sentiment that alternative 2 is, really the only way forward with this if we're going to continue with this grant funding source. And so, yeah, and I hear all of your concerns about the timeline and stuff, and that's one of the challenging things with this funding source is that, yes, you can get a big chunk of funding, but there's so much process involved in it that it does take time to get to the finish line of the construction. And so I think, Brian and I are each doing as best we can to expedite the parts that we have control over, but there are just unfortunately some components of the process that are slow and that we can't speed up.
In terms of schedule, one thing that I guess didn't mention was, again, well, I did mention, but one thing that could potentially be shortened is right-of-way coordination. I'm assuming Linda or the town's been in contact with the property owners previously. Is that a correct statement? That helps, I guess, maybe just continuously make them be aware of what we're proposing and keep them in the loop. So that way when, you do waiver evaluations and, come up with the right-of-way negotiations for them, that can potentially be a streamlined task.
I just want to quickly, Linda, because you mentioned the funding, right? So just to refresh everyone's memory, so this is being funded through a Transportation Alternatives Program grant that was for $300,000. And Linda, can you clarify, is 75,000 of the 300 a required match, or is it 75,000 match to 300?
So in the grant application, the project total estimate was 375,000, 300,000 of which will be covered by the grant and 75,000 of which will be the town's contribution.
Great, because in doing the numbers real quick, it looks like we're about 4,000 shy. So, which is better than 4,000 over, right? So that's good. Yeah.
Yep.
Good. Well, I don't want to curtail discussion on this, but if the board is ready to consider an alternative here, it seems like, the more we can expedite things, the greater the chance might be that we can actually expedite things. So is there a motion on an alternative to move forward with?
I'll make a motion to move on alternative number 2, the QT storm, for the Longley Bridge project.
Great. So we've got a motion from Mark to move forward with alternative 2. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. We've got a second from Leanne. Is there any further discussion on the motion to move forward with alternative 2? Hearing none, we can vote. All those in favor of moving forward with alternative 2, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. So Brian, Linda, it seems like we're good to move forward with alternative 2. Just let us know what the next steps are and when you need it from us. And we can try to get any work we can do, rolling on the right-of-way stuff, or, send us the home number for whoever we can call it, FHWA, and we'll pester them. So.
I think next steps, Charlie, are for Brian to take that alternative to initial plans and develop it into a more formal conceptual plan that we will be submitting to V-Trans for approval. Is that right, Brian?
Yes.
Okay. So the town can just sit tight for a little bit.
Great. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out to chat this evening, both Brian and Linda. This has been really helpful, and glad to see things moving forward on this.
Okay, well, thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you. Brian, one last thing before you log out. If you could just make me the host of the meeting again.
Okay, you're going to have to give me some help with that.
Yep. So if you go and you put your cursor on my screen in the upper right-hand spot, there'll be 3 dots.
Yep.
If you click that, there should be a scroll down that will say make host. Yep. Perfect.
Okay.
Nice job, Brian.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Linda, while I have you on, I guess I'll give you a call tomorrow to discuss other guest schedule saving maneuvers or things to discuss with V-Trans about schedule, to expedite schedule.
That sounds perfect.
All right.
Bye,
Awesome.
everyone. Thank you.
So much,
Bye.
guys. Take care. So moving on, we're going to stick with Public Works. First item under Public Works, as always, is roads and bridges. First item there is usually just a placeholder for grant updates. Any grant updates, Mark or Michael, that you've got?
Just one. We did reapply for that project up on Hill West in the dip by Charlie Carpenter's. We applied for it last year, but no funding was available. So we have reapplied again for this common season.
Great.
Probably it's not going to be any funding again, but we'll keep applying, keep putting them in.
Great.
See what happens.
'Cause that's through the Better Back Roads, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. If there's no other grant updates, the next thing on the agenda is just to hopefully wrap up the discussion on the Class 4 road policy. But before we do that, is there anything else under roads and bridges, Michael or Mark, that you wanted to bring to the board's attention tonight?
Just one little note, our 550, the small truck is broke down again. We had to have it towed away this morning. So that'll be in the shop. I'll have it by the end of the week.
Okay.
It's an ongoing issue, electrical issue with the transmission components.
Oh, wow.
Great.
In the meantime, is plowing covered on the roads? At the
Yes, it
550?
is.
Okay, great,
Yeah, between Avery Stanley and Derek Litz's, they have it covered.
awesome. One of the roads they probably do is Brook Road. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And so
I
did you
see the email on it late this afternoon.
Okay. If you want to do me a favor, you can just write Mark and I back and we can respond to them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we don't have to dig into
Okay.
it here tonight, but we can chat by email on that if you want, or Mark and I can swing by and talk. So
Yeah.
great. All right, if that's for that, then what we're going to do is, so just to recap, we've been going over some potential amendments to the Class 4 road and trail policy and the application. And so after last meeting's discussion and some great feedback from folks, I've prepared what I hope is going to be the last draft of this. So I'll screen share that right now, and then we can walk through that. Assuming I can find the right screen. Okay, can everybody see what's up here right now? Not hearing any no's, so hopefully that's the case. So what we're looking at right now is the policy part of it. Items in black are what existed previously. Items in red are what was in the last draft that the board looked at and actually approved. Items in green are what's changed based on additional feedback. So in the first paragraph, the things that have changed here essentially just get to the discussion points that we had around the road commissioner essentially leading this and not the board. The road commissioner has the ability to accept the application and approve it without necessarily having to go through the board. It'll streamline everything. So that's the intent here. There's also a line added here. Myrtle had asked what happens if the road commissioner denies the application. There's an added line here that just says that if the approval is denied, the applicant can appeal to the select board within 14 days. I want to give folks 1 minute just to read through that paragraph before we move on and see if there are any questions or comments. And I can make it bigger too for folks if they're having trouble reading it.
Can you make it bigger?
Is that better?
There you go.
All right. Any feedback on paragraph 1 as amended? Not hearing anything. So with that, we'll scroll down. Paragraph 2 is the same as it was last time. Nothing has changed there. Below that, 3, 4, and 5. So 3 is an added reference which is intended to get at the regular maintenance issue. The idea that we don't want to have somebody have to come to the road commissioner every single time they want to put some gravel down on a road. This would allow the road commissioner to essentially approve that regular annual maintenance, and that would kind of run with the applicant. They would not be able to give that approval to anybody else. It would not be transferable. Item 4, again, the road commissioner is notified so they can inspect the work. And then an added thing here, item 5 is there was a question as to what happens if somebody does work on a class 4 road without prior approval. And this part of the policy would just clarify that they would be financially responsible for any required corrective action. Any questions or comments on sections 3, 4, or 5 of this?
I think there's a typo in 3 where it says the road commissioner may at their desertion.
Oh yeah, when they desert, they get out of here
Yeah.
at their discretion. Thank you, Leanne. So good that we have teachers on the board to point these things out.
What a pain.
Anything else on 3, 4, or 5? Okay, not hearing anything else. I'm going to keep scrolling. So last part of the policy just talks about summer and winter maintenance and upgrades. The only added thing here is under winter maintenance. This is just talking about plowing, and that plowing may be conducted without prior approval. However, the town can request corrective action if damage to the road or other property occurs. So if somebody tries to plow a class 4 road and manages to really screw it up, the town can request that corrective action be made under the policy. Any questions or comments on that change? Hearing none, we'll keep going. So this gets to the application part of this. Again, things in red and black were previously reviewed and approved. The changes here from this draft, if we scroll down, there's this section here is a little bit bigger to attach any relevant drawings as applicable. And then at the bottom of the application, this is how the section reads now. Basically, there's an opportunity for the road commissioner to signify whether this is a regular maintenance application, so basically giving the approval to just regularly do gravel work or not. This is the signature of the property owner and the road commissioner. The road commissioner would either circle approved or not approved on the application. And then following the completion and final inspection, similar to like the driveway permits, the road commissioner would then sign off here on the bottom if the work has been completed. Any questions or comments on the amended application or policy? And I can zoom back into any section anybody has a question on or wants to review again.
I'm just rather curious, what brought this about? The guys up there, maintain that road for years and years. They travel, they're sure not going to damage it. So I just wonder what brought this all about. And they got to have a drawing and so forth for the work they want to do.
So again, the drawings are only relevant if there's something that requires them. So as requested. So for example, if someone wants to put down a truckload of gravel and spread it, that would not require a drawing. But if somebody wanted to install a culvert, we would need to know where the culvert's going, essentially what it's doing. Similar to if anybody wanted to, right now we've got things where someone wants to cross a class 3 road with a culvert or something, similar to like what Jordan Kane did. These are things that we already do there. The main change to this, Merle, was that the way that the policy is written right now currently is that anybody essentially using a class 4 road would have to get a permit, as the policy is currently, or was currently enacted. So this attempts to basically streamline things and make the permit process essentially more reasonable and something that we'd actually use.
I don't know. What do you feel about them drawings, Larry?
I don't have a problem with the drawings. If I'm going
No
to replace, if I'm going to replace a culvert, it's very easy to put a GPS location and an approximate drawing of what I'd like to do. Or if I have to put it, and I think it's mostly meant for a new culvert, not a replacement culvert, I would suspect.
Hey, okay, good for you.
I don't have a problem with it. What I do like about it, I put in one application to grade the road every year.
Yep. And the intent here too is that this kind of takes the select board out of the process and puts it before the road commissioner in an attempt to basically streamline this and make it a lot easier.
Yep.
Any other questions, comments on the draft? Mark, Michael, anything, you guys?
Oh, looks good to me.
Looks good to me. I think it will make things a lot easier
Okay.
to move the things along on the class 4s.
Great. All right.
It
So if
eliminates
there's-
some liability issues too for you.
Yeah, the liability was the other part of it that we were looking to address. All right, well, if there's no other comments, questions, or discussion on the policy and application as amended, I guess we entertain a motion to adopt the amended policy and application. Is there a motion to adopt the policy and application as amended?
Can't get anybody to make a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, thank you, Road Commissioner.
Somebody else would make the motion, but.
We got a motion from Mark. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. Thanks, Leanne. We've got a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adopting the Class 4 road and trail policy and application as amended signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Boy,
Great.
couldn't wait to make that motion, Mark.
Great. I will get a copy of this off to Zach so we can put it on the website. And then I will also print off copies and repost them in the normal spots around town. We used to have this posted at those spots. The last place I actually saw it was the village post office, but it's getting old and raggedy and now it's changed. We'll post the new one. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Larry, Merle, Howard. Thank you, everybody, for your input on this. It's really helpful to get outside perspective as well as just the boards. So thanks, everybody, for chiming in on that.
Thank you.
If there's nothing else on roads and bridges, we'll move on to buildings and grounds. Hearing nothing else, this should go pretty quick. 98 Main Street, there's no update on that one. We haven't heard any other communications from the post office or anything. There was a little hiccup with the furnace, I think, but Mike seemed to take care of that. There was a little bit of a water issue, I guess, but that seems like it's all set, Michael. You're muted, but I'm guessing you're saying yes.
Yeah, that was taken care of today.
Okay.
It was just the boiler blow off, very minor.
Okay, great. So we'll carry that over. Hopefully we'll hear from the post office before, well, at this point, maybe we'll get the post office before we get Longley Bridge fixed. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Next item on buildings and grounds is the PSB town office renovations. So Jacob and I finally had a chance to put our heads together on this, and I think we've got a pretty good kind of timeline and plan of work mapped out as far as what we need to do to basically get the steps and move the process forward. And so right now, what I've done is I've reached back out to the library, and they're working up a needs assessment, essentially, to figure out what specifically it is that the library is looking for, whether it's just additional space or if there's some new facilities part of that they want, because that will kind of inform how the project tracks as far as the work on the building and what kind of design and or engineering services that we need. So once we get that back from the library, we can kind of get the detail on the project much finer, and that will give us kind of the next steps on the design phase. So things are moving forward on that at this point. Any questions on that one from anybody? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on. Item C here, FEMA, only update is that we're continuing to plug away at it. Nothing else to report at this time on that front. Item D was removal of trees in Black Falls Brook.
So I requested this be put on. If anybody noticed when you're going up Black Falls Road, before you get to the bridge on the left, there's a bunch of trees that are kind of stuck right in the river there. I think it's something we need to remove. I think it's going to cause an ice jam, and I'm not quite sure who we can get to do that. I don't know if that's something St. Ange's could do, or with tree removal service, or I just wanted permission to, look into it and get it taken care of. There's a few residents have, been worried about it too, but yeah. I think it caused a big problem in the future.
Yeah, I know Dana was worried about it, and we did go look at it. We did look at this with the gentleman from the NRCS that came to town to look at the damage from the Halloween storm as far as property damages go. And one of the things that they do look at is this kind of work, but unfortunately it didn't qualify for any funding assistance, just to remind folks of that.
So I'm not, I guess I'll just talk with Michael and see if we can, try to figure out who we can get to and what the cost will be to get it removed.
How far a distance from the bridge is it, Mark?
It's probably about halfway. Probably 200 feet below the bridge. I would say 200 to 300 feet. So if it does dam up, the water will go right into the road and wash the road right out and head right down.
Is it a fairly accessible area, or?
I think they could reach it from the other side, or
yeah, if they came across Tim's property and came up there, it looked like they could sneak in with a machine.
Yeah.
I think they can get a machine in easy enough. We're just going to need a temporary right of way to do the project.
Yeah, but I think,
Awesome.
What do you think?
Does
Just
anybody
bringing in an excavator and trying to pull it out with that? I think is probably going to be the best way. I think.
Yeah. St. Anne's has one with a large grapple on it now. That might be the best. Either that or just a large skidder. But you're still going to need something to grapple to pick it up and remove it after it's out.
So I guess we'll talk to them and just see what we can get for a price and see, But I just wanted approval to look into it and make sure.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, if there's no cost expenditure, I don't think it's something we need to be real formal about, but does anybody have any problem with Mark and Michael pursuing this for more information? Doesn't sound like it, so yeah.
Okay, we'll look into it. Try to get it done.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So that's it for Public Works on the agenda. The one other note I just had to quickly get an update on was the driveway permit on 28 Reagan Road. Para, I think was the landowner's name. We had approved it provisionally a meeting ago, I think. Has that been signed off on yet?
I reviewed it. I went up and looked at the site, like just for formalities. I hadn't looked at it previously. Yeah, I mean, there's no reason it's a go. I mean, they need to put a culvert in.
Okay. And has the
But just
land, have they been notified yet that they're approved?
I don't believe so. I don't think have you formally gone through it, the motions at the meeting?
Well, I think what we did was we basically approved the driveway permit on the condition that basically you and Mark approved it, just to streamline it so that we didn't have to come back. So
Okay.
if you guys are good with it, all we need back is just the piece of paper with the signature so that we can have it for the record.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that previously had been done.
Okay, I'll sign off on it. And I
Okay,
mean, they're gonna
great.
do it right off anyways till spring, so, yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure we had the copy in the file so that if anyone needed it, we've got it there. So it's right on the top of the box in the office.
Okay.
So whenever you have a chance.
Well, when we stop in to sign warrants, so.
Warrants.
Take
Yeah,
care.
yeah. Great.
Yeah.
All right, at this point, we're gonna pivot to visitors. I apologize that visitors is kind of later today. The presentation, our agenda got a little bit turned around. So visitors, we typically go in the order folks joined the meeting. So Larry, I think that you might have been the first one on the meeting. Or you were Sue,
Thank you.
one of the two.
Will you just send me a copy of the class 4 update?
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you very much. Anita, you have anything?
No.
My intended has nothing.
Great, thanks Anita. Sue, anything for visitors?
Yes, I have a request. If we were to do a farmer's market this summer, because of the social distancing requirements, would it be possible for us to also use the village green to have vendors set up?
I can't think of any issue with that other than just having some way of traffic calming to make sure that anybody walking across that one section of the common road is safe, I guess.
Well, like right now with the farmer's market, a lot of people park around the park and then walk over to the historical.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
this would just mean that there would be vendors on the village green, probably not more than 6 or 8, because we have to allow for distance between each. So, but it's a 15-week market, so I just wanted to, I mean, it's too early to tell right now whether we're even going to be able to do it, but I wanted to put it out there that we may be looking to use the village green as well, and if that would be allowed.
No other conflicting events that anybody can think of that uses the green at that time? All I can think of are periodic memorial services and things, but those wouldn't conflict with.
No, because this would be from the end of June to the first week
Yeah.
in October.
Okay.
The
Well,
only
if
thing
you
I
want-
would suggest is be careful of vehicles having sight up and down the road to pull out into the road. That's all.
Yeah,
Not
sight
blocked,
lines.
not blocked by a tent.
Well, yeah, the stop sign is way further from wherever tents would be.
Okay,
You mean right there on the common?
yeah.
Well, I guess if no one has any qualms with this, so to formalize it, I will make a motion to allow the farmers market to use the town green for the 2021 season.
Yep. If we have it, yes, thank
If
you.
it happens, yep. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Great. Thanks, Leanne. Is there any further discussion on this one? All right, hearing none, we'll vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great, motion carries. Thanks, Sue.
Thank you.
Merle, anything for visitors tonight?
Well, I'm just curious about that. I mean, there's certainly no problem with it and everybody agree, but if something isn't on the agenda, can you legally take action?
That's a good point, Merle. You're right. This actually
Yeah.
wasn't on the agenda previously. So technically what we'd have to do is ratify this at the next meeting. I
Yes,
can
to
add
make it
this.
good, so there could
Yep.
be no objections to it.
Yeah, no, thanks, Merle. You're spot on with that. Yep. So what we can do is add this to the next agenda and then just ratify that decision. Gotta write it down so I don't forget. Was there anything else you had, Merle, for tonight?
I think probably about the last live meeting the selectmen had, it was brought to the selectmen's attention that there was a page missing of the town report. The page showing everyone that was paid. Oh, you did? Did you produce it?
Yes.
It's not in the town report. No, the page that's always showed everyone that was paid by the town and how much. And I think Larry even showed you last year's town report, that page, and I think you said you were no problem. You're gonna prepare that page. You remember that, Larry?
Yeah, Anita indicates that that was handed out at the meeting the following day.
I can try to find a copy of that, Merle. If it's, I mean, if we handed it out.
Just
it's
hang on,
around.
I may have it right here. It's right here. Can you see it? That's from the meeting. That was the handout at the meeting the following day.
But let me get a copy of that, Merle. I can email you a PDF.
Well, it was last year's town report.
Yeah.
It's always been part of the town report, showing everyone, that is paid by the town, and of course, the amount.
Okay, but yeah, if you're still looking for a copy of that, Merle, we can get you one. That's not a problem.
Yeah. And last thing, how much are you going to lower the tax rate this year?
As much as we feasibly can.
It may be time that put a moratorium on any new project that's going to cost the taxpayers money.
What's that?
We have a lot of new projects always coming down the pipe here. And
Look in
I
here.
think, and just maintain what we have.
Right now.
That's my suggestion.
All right,
Okay.
well, suggestions well taken. Yeah, thanks, Merle. Howard, did you have anything for visitors tonight?
I'd just appreciate if you'd send me an updated copy of the class 4 stuff.
Yep.
And mainly I'm here to listen. I learn more that way.
Great. Well, yeah, we'll shoot you a copy of that. No problem. Great.
Thank
So with
you.
that, I think, was there anybody else have anything for visitors? Genevieve, anything tonight? Good, awesome. All right, with that, we'll hop to Water Commission. There are no Water Commission issues going on that I'm aware of. Ross was in today to pick up the gun and equipment, so. Move on to old business. Right now, so old business, first item here is just the COVID-19 item that's carried over from meeting to meeting, just to make a space for this. Does anybody have anything tonight related to the COVID-19 response? I don't have any updates or anything to share from the town or any news from the state at this point that isn't public, Okay, that's fine. Moving on to the second item here, under old business, the EV charging stations. So Suzanne has indicated that they're installed and active, which is awesome. I didn't realize that they were actually active yet. I've seen Doug out there working, but that is fantastic. So now we just need signage, which is awesome. Do you know where the signage is coming from? Is that like something the state provides, or we have to order, or?
We just have to order it. I sent Erin the links for it, and she should take care of that in the next week or so.
Awesome.
I didn't know, do we want to put up a sign that's, like a no parking EVS cars only, or should we just kind of leave that to the discretion of the parking lot?
Probably be a good idea to put a sign up in front of it.
That's kind of what I figured.
Yeah. My guess is the individual discretion of people parking in the lot will come into play. But we can certainly motivate them to do the right thing.
Okay, so I'll just add that to the list, and it's like they're like $15 or not much, so, and that'll be the end of it, I think.
Great, sweet. Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Knock that one off our list.
Next
Question?
Stu, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. The vehicle charging station, is that on a separate mount or is that attached on the Grange Hall?
It's like it's on its own pedestal mount, like standing independently, but it's all wired into the building.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Charlie, I was only thinking, because if we get historic, we do this nomination for the Grange, I don't think we can have anything attached to it outside. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that, oh my God. What if
That
it's
wasn't there when the congregational church was there?
What? What?
That was part of the congregational church. I've seen it.
Yeah,
in the photos. Plug their horses in.
Horses to charge them.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. That's great that project's coming into the finish line. So
Yes, good
I
job,
guess,
Suzanne.
yeah. And then Suzanne, just shoot me a note with anything we need to do as far as the grant goes. If you need documentation, signed or whatever, we can get that together with Aaron and Doug and we'll get it in. Cool. Next item on the agenda, this is the wastewater and streetscape projects. There's no specific update on this tonight other than now that we're past the holidays and that last planning advance money is kicked in, we're going to be ramping up re-engaging with Hoyle Tanner in the planning discussions. So our first kind of re-engagement meeting is tomorrow night with a couple of us and the committee that's been working on this. So if anybody's interested, let me know and I'll shoot you the link.
I have a question on that.
Yeah, Sue, go ahead.
I just have a question on that because somebody called me. If we do go with this wastewater, it wouldn't be until 2022, correct?
Yeah, the construction would not, yeah, if this project moves forward, construction on this would not start until probably 2023 at this point, actually.
Oh, all right. Okay. So
Yeah.
maybe 2023. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So hopefully as January progresses, we'll have some more information for the board to consider on that front and chew on. But for now, just know that we're re-engaging full throttle with Hoyle Tanner on this next planning slug around financial aspects and stuff like that. So the next item on this is just town meeting planning. This is something we're going to have on the agenda until town meeting, just to make a space for it. You know, we reviewed the timeline and everything last time. The budget committee is going to start meeting Thursday to start fleshing this out. So if any board member is interested or anybody's interested, you know, they're formally warned meetings of the select board as well as the budget committee. So everyone's welcome to join. Zoom link will be on the website and on the agenda. So that's kind of the next step there, is to get the budget figured out. Last thing there, I guess, is just to say, if you haven't, or if you can help, just keep spreading the word that folks who want to run for an office need to file with Liz by mid-January, their notice of intent. We want to make sure as many people as possible get that word so that no one gets left out. Anybody have any other town meeting related stuff they want us to bring up or talk about? Okay, if not, we can move on. The next item is the Communications Union District update. I don't have an update on that from Everett or anybody involved with that tonight. I was hoping to get one, but I didn't get one. So there's no update there. New business is a blank slate tonight. We don't have any permits to review or any liquor licenses. So with that, it brings us to the end of our agenda. there any other business to be done before the board tonight, or anything anybody wants to discuss?
Night.
Bye, Merle. So if not, motion to adjourn is always in order.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. You got a second out there?
Leanne?
All right, I saw Leanne. Maybe more arms. Got a second. Any further discussion?
Bye,
Hearing none, we'll-
everybody.
Well, no, we got to vote first. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great evening.
So
Good
Chair,
Thank you.
we'll get together.